Did you want more Sadako in 3D? No, neither did I. Hi guys, so before we get into it, a very quick disclaimer that you'll find all my other Ring reviews in my Ring playlist, and there probably will be spoilers today if that bothers you. So I think this is part 10 of this Ring review series, and I'm going to be completely honest, my enthusiasm for this one was not that great. I think with the previous film, I kind of hit the wall a little bit in terms of my enthusiasm for this series. 9 films in, I just reached that point where I was like, yeah, if it wasn't for the YouTube review series, I'd be checking out probably at this point. But I'm determined to see it through to the end. I really want to be able to say that I've done a full Ring review series, so on I go. But I wanted to be honest about my feelings coming into this. I didn't just want to turn the camera on and be like, hey, Sadako 3D 2, let's go! You know, all that fake kind of putting on a show kind of a thing. I'll always try and be honest with you guys, and quite simply, motivation was not high coming into this film. I really struggled to actually put the damn thing on. But I'm still going to try and be objective. I'm still going to try and give it a fair score. I do have some positives for this film. It's not a terrible horror film, that's the thing. It's not even a boring one. It's just one that I wasn't that invested in all honesty. So the story for this, so with the first Sadako 3D, there were 2 main characters. One was called Akano, one was called Takahori. Were they a couple or not? I don't know, but they've become a couple by the start of this second film because they've had a baby together. And one of the first things that happens is that Akano dies in childbirth and leaves the baby for Takahori. The baby's name is Naji, but Takahori is really depressed about what's happened. He even blames Naji a little bit, and he's in a little bit of a stupor in this film, and he can't actually look after the kid himself. He's had to rope in help from his sister Fuko. So it's mainly Fuko's movie actually. Takahori's more of a secondary character, but there's something wrong with this kid Naji. Throughout this she's killing people. She's got like Sadako's power inside her somehow because of the events from the previous film, so she's able to force people into committing suicide. This really doesn't actually feel like a Ring movie, I've got to be honest. I can't remember Sadako herself appearing in this. If she puts in an appearance at any point during this film, I've already forgotten it. I'll be honest. It feels more like Omen 4: The Awakening than a Ring film, just because we've got this little girl. She's 5 by the time the story properly gets going, but she's forcing people to kill themselves. But there's none of the traditional Ring staples. There's no long-haired women crawling out of TVs. There's no creepy videotapes in motels. There's no enthralling investigations as characters try to get to the bottom of some deep mystery. You know, we know what's going on with this film from very early on. It's a little shit of a kid killing people, and we've got to find a way to stop it, and Fuko, the de facto mother, is going to be the main character in that. But I didn't even know who this main character was when I was watching this film. So when it started and Fuko was on the screen talking to Takahori on the phone, they share an early phone call with each other. I thought to myself, okay, is this the same couple from the first movie? Because I couldn't remember what Akano looked like from the first film. I mean, to me, Akano and Fuko, they're both just good-looking Japanese Mary Sues with no distinguishable differences in personality. So, from my point of view, this could have just been the same girl from the first movie. And because I wasn't that invested in watching this, I couldn't be bothered pausing it to go and check the cast list on Wikipedia. I just decided to let the film play out, and then at the end, I went onto the internet and found out that actually, no, this was a new character called Fuko. But there's other things I just didn't get as well, like the childbirth in the beginning of the film. This is something I found out from Wiki after the fact. Like, I don't even remember this happening at the start of this film. Some of these Ring films, they're not very good at communicating what's going on in the first 15 or 20 minutes. So there's that as well. It took me 2 viewings to get through this film. The first time I put it on, it was a night time and I fell asleep after about 25 minutes. So I decided to watch it on Sunday afternoon, and I thought, okay, this time I can't fall asleep. It's the middle of the afternoon. Guess what? I fell asleep again around about the half an hour point. Now, I am getting to the sort of age, 40s, where I do now start to fall asleep sometimes during a lazy afternoon when I'm not doing a whole lot, but The fact that I fell asleep twice on 2 different viewings of this film does tell me a lot in terms of where my head was with this. But at least the second time around, I did rewind the thing and then take it all the way to the end, but boy, was it a slog to get through. We've got the same director this time around, Tsutomu Hanabusa. Sorry, I can't pronounce his name very well. Strangely, though, we don't get key actors back from the first film, and when they do come back, not for full roles. So the girl who played Akano first time around, she's completely absent in this. But I find that strange, because this is a film that was made a year after the first one. You'd think they would have managed to keep hold of that actress. It doesn't make sense, really, to replace Akano with the sister of Takahori for the lead role, unless you simply couldn't get the original actress back. But even if they couldn't get the Akano actress back, then why not just make this Takahori's movie? Because that actor comes back for this, albeit strangely he's only in a handful of scenes here and there. But why not just make this a film about Takahori struggling with being a single parent, struggling with being on his own without Akano? Maybe he could have been shown to have really been up against it in the first half of this movie, just doing everyday things like making Naji her lunch and getting her to nursery and stuff like that. And then halfway through, when it becomes apparent that Naji's killing people, then Takahori could have stepped up to the plate, been the saviour, and in a weird way, he could have found it easier just being like a movie hero rather than being a single father. And there could have been an interesting message to sort of put out there with that kind of story, maybe. But bringing in this new character, Fuko, the sister of Takahori, I don't know, it's nowhere near as effective as if you've got actually one of the proper parents in that position in the movie. Someone who does come back from the first film, his name is Kashiwada, I think. So this is the secondary villain from the first film who we saw pushing loads of women into the well. He was trying to create a vessel for Sadako to come back. I thought, though, that he died in the first film when he was making a videotape to go on the internet. I thought he died during that whole process. But if I'm right about that, then they've retconned his death to bring him back for just one scene in this, because he's an inmate in a prison, and Fuko goes to visit him to try and get a couple of slithers of information out of him, I suppose. It's that traditional trope about a main character going and visiting somebody in a mental ward or a prison, and the conversation ends up being really cryptic, and it's, I don't know, I've just seen it a million times before, that they've tried to be really snazzy with this particular scene, because this guy, Kashiwada, he walks on from the back of the room in a really kind of dramatic way. So first of all, it's not your traditional waiting room in a prison, visiting room, I should say, you know, where you've got like loads of tables and chairs, and there's lots of people visiting their nearest and dearest at the same time. No, this is one room. It's very dark in how it's lit, and Kashiwada just walks on from the back, completely central in the frame, just slowly walks to the front, totally like that villain in Skyfall who just walks on to greet Bond for the first time in the film. And Skyfall came out a year after this, I'm sure, so maybe there was a little bit of copying, plagiarism going on there, who knows. But yeah, we get a cheesy prison scene, and I can't even remember if Fuko learned anything interesting. I am going to get to some positives very soon, but before we do, I've got one more negative, which is the ending to this film. It's a complete mess. So it turns out that Akano actually is alive. So her death was faked, and after she supposedly died of childbirth, she was moved into the hospital basement. She's still comatose, but she's down there, and I've no idea, by the way, if this is the same actress who played Akano first time around. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. If it is, then why the hell couldn't she have been in the full movie? Who knows? But yeah, this is all just ridiculous. I mean, you can't just fake somebody's death and have them moved to some magical hospital room in the basement. Just not going to happen. And the reasons for this are really weird as well. Like, the movie just starts making its own rules up at this point. And we've been down this road before with some of the Ring sequels. They just make up things on the spot, supernatural rules, and, you know. So Takahori has somehow figured out that Akano can't be in the same room as her daughter Naji, because this will bring Sadako back. How does he know this? No idea. There's just assumptions and suppositions and people know things that they shouldn't about how the supernatural world works. It's just making stuff up on the spot. It's very unsatisfying when they do this. So the whole ending for me was kind of like, what is going on? How long to go? Yeah, not long now, thank God. So on with the positives then. Before I get into those, I will say that this might be a slightly better film than the first one, despite everything that I've said. It just doesn't feel like a Ring film, whereas the first film, it is a Ring film, but in a very modern, unsatisfying way. So I guess it just depends where your priorities lie, I suppose. But in terms of the things that you can enjoy about this second one, the kills, I suppose, are entertaining. I mean, it's all done in a very Damien the Omen type way. This little girl just forcing people to do things to themselves, like throwing themselves off balconies, and yeah, you can get some entertainment out of that, sure. There's a terrific scene involving a rope bridge. They found an amazing location for one scene. It's like a rope bridge that joins two different parts of a cliff face near the sea, and it looks really spectacular. Now, in this scene, Fuko is thinking about throwing the child off the bridge. What a shame that she doesn't. But not only do the surroundings look really good, but there's some genuine emotion in this scene. The two actresses really put in a good performance in this scene. They're not particularly impressive in the rest of the movie. It's like this spectacular landscape just inspired them for 5 minutes or something bizarre. Now, I did say earlier that I really hate the finale with the underground medical room with the Kanu in it, and I do, but that's just the story side of the finale. The practical action part of the finale isn't that bad. There's like a river of blood that's really cool. Anytime I get a river of blood, a pool of blood in a movie, that's always cool to see. There are people getting shot and stuff, and from an action perspective, there are a few things that you can enjoy about the third act. It's just a shame that the story is just a complete mess. It's like they realised after about an hour of this that they were just remaking Omen 4 and thought, oh God, we've got to come up with something for the finale, and they've come up with all this shit. They might as well have just carried on trying to make the best ever version of Omen 4, though. That's the problem. Normally at this point of the video I would show you the version of the film that I own, but I do not have a copy of Sadako 3D 2. It's not even available to buy where I live, and even if it was, I wouldn't buy it. I will probably never watch this film again. It's not that it's a bad film, as you'll see when I do my score in a minute. It's just not a film I was particularly interested in. Now, I will say that with 4 films to go after this one, I might not have this same disinterested demeanour for the rest of the review series, because there are some films still to come which interest me more than this one. So there's Sadako versus The Grudge, or whatever it's called. I think that could be some good cheesy fun. I might enjoy that in a Freddy versus Jason type way. Yeah, I've got enthusiasm for that. And there's another American Ring sequel still to come. I'm curious to see what they did with that. In terms of the films that are likely to just be Japanese follow-ons of this one, maybe not so much, but I'm determined to get through them all. I will do this, I will. But for now, let's get to the bag of terror and find out what sort of score I'm going to give Sadako 3D Part 2. So we've got 1, 2, 2.5 bloody axes out of 5. That is the same score that I gave the first film. So, as you can see, not a terrible film. An average film, but not a bad one. I'm going to have a think about which one I preferred, in all honesty, out of these 2 films. Because I'm going to do a ranking eventually of all the Ring films. And yeah, I think these 2 films will probably end up coming side by side in that ranking. But as to which is the best, I'm probably leaning towards this second one. Not that I was massively into it, but there we go. That was Sadako 3D Part 2. And I'll be back soon to do the next Ring film. I'm going chronologically. I don't even know what the next one is at this point, but I will certainly find out shortly. Until next time, cheerio, bye-bye.